The rain fell heavy on the sidewalk as Amara Johnson pressed her back against the cold brick wall of the coffee shop. Her heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. 20 feet away, her ex-boyfriend Jerome stalked toward her with that familiar angry look in his eyes. The same look he had given her the night she finally found the courage to leave him 3 months ago. "You think you can just ignore my calls, Amara?" Jerome's voice carried across the empty street. The few people who had been walking nearby seemed to disappear when they sensed trouble brewing. "We need to talk. Right now." Amara clutched her purse tighter and looked around desperately. The coffee shop had closed early due to a broken pipe, and the streets were nearly empty because of the storm. Her phone battery had died an hour ago, and she had no way to call for help. Jerome kept walking closer, his hands clenched into fists. "I told you we're done, Jerome," she called out, trying to keep her voice steady. "I don't want to see you anymore." "That's not your choice to make," Jerome snapped back. "You belong to me and you know it. Stop playing games and get in my car." That's when she saw him. A tall man in an expensive gray suit was walking down the sidewalk toward them, completely unbothered by the rain. He had dark hair and kind eyes, and something about his calm presence made Amara feel like maybe she had a chance. Without thinking, she ran toward the stranger. "Please," she gasped, grabbing his arm. "Please, I need you to pretend to hug me. That man over there, he won't leave me alone. I just need him to think you're my boyfriend. Please." The stranger looked into her eyes for just a moment, and she saw something there that surprised her. Not suspicion or annoyance, but immediate concern and understanding. "Of course," he said quietly, and without any hesitation, he wrapped his strong arms around her in a protective embrace. "Are you okay?" The relief that flooded through Amara was so strong that she almost started crying right there on the sidewalk. For the first time in months, she felt safe. "Amara, what the hell is this?" Jerome's voice came from behind her, full of rage. The stranger gently turned them both to face Jerome, keeping one arm around Amara's shoulders. "Is there a problem here?" His voice was calm but firm, and there was something in his tone that made it clear he wouldn't back down. "Yeah, there's a problem," Jerome shot back. "This is my girlfriend, and you need to get your hands off her." "I'm not your girlfriend," Amara said, finding her voice again. "I haven't been your girlfriend for 3 months. I told you to leave me alone." The stranger's grip on her shoulder tightened just slightly, a silent message of support. "The lady has asked you to leave. I think you should respect her wishes." Jerome looked back and forth between them, his face twisted with anger. But something about the stranger's confident presence seemed to make him think twice. Maybe it was the expensive clothes, or maybe it was the way the man stood like he was used to being in control. "This isn't over," Jerome finally spat. "You can't hide behind your new boyfriend forever." "Actually, she can," the stranger said calmly. "And she should never have to hide from anyone. Now I suggest you leave before I call the police." Jerome glared at them for a long moment, then turned and stormed away into the rain. Amara watched until his car disappeared around the corner before she finally allowed herself to breathe again. "Thank you," she whispered, stepping back from the stranger's embrace. "I'm so sorry to drag you into that. I was just so scared and I didn't know what else to do." "Don't apologize," he said gently. "I'm glad I was here. Are you hurt?" Amara shook her head, wiping rain from her face. "No, he didn't touch me. But he's been following me for weeks. I don't know what he would have done if you hadn't been here." The stranger looked genuinely worried. "Has he threatened you before?" "Not directly, but—" Amara hesitated. She didn't even know this man's name, and here she was telling him her personal business. But something about his kind eyes made her feel like she could trust him. "He has a bad temper. When we were together, he used to grab me and push me around. I finally left him when I realized it was only going to get worse." "I'm sorry you went through that," he said, and the sincerity in his voice surprised her. No one deserves to be treated that way. Ever. The rain was getting heavier, and Amara realized they were both getting soaked standing there on the sidewalk. "I should let you get out of this rain," she said. "Thank you again for helping me. I don't know how to repay you." "You don't need to repay me," he said immediately. "But I'm not comfortable leaving you here alone. What if he comes back?" Amara hadn't thought about that, and the idea made her stomach clench with fear. I guess I'll have to call a taxi when I find somewhere with power to charge my phone." The stranger was already shaking his head. "Let me drive you home. I want to make sure you get there safely." "Oh no, I couldn't ask you to do that. You've already done so much." "You're not asking. I'm offering," he said with a gentle smile. "My name is Gabriel, by the way. Gabriel Martinez." "Amara Johnson," she replied. And I really appreciate the offer, but I don't want to be any more trouble. Gabriel looked at her seriously. Amara, helping you isn't trouble. It's the right thing to do. Please let me make sure you get home safely. I would worry about you all night otherwise. There was something in his voice that made her believe he really meant it. And the truth was, she was terrified of being alone right now. What if Jerome was waiting for her somewhere else? Okay, she said quietly. If you're sure it's not too much trouble. Gabriel smiled, and it was the first genuine smile Amara had seen in weeks. I'm sure. Come on, my car is right around the corner. As they walked through the rain together, Amara couldn't help but wonder who this mysterious man really was. His clothes looked expensive, and there was something about the way he carried himself that suggested he was used to being in charge. But more than that, there was a kindness in his eyes that made her feel like maybe, just maybe, her luck was finally starting to change. She had no idea that the stranger she had just met would turn out to be one of the wealthiest men in the city. And she certainly had no idea that this rainy night would be the beginning of something beautiful. Can you imagine being so desperate that you'd beg a complete stranger for help? What would you do in Amara's situation? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more heartwarming stories like this one. Gabriel's car was exactly what Amara would have expected from someone who dressed in expensive suits. It was a sleek black sedan that looked like it cost more than she made in 2 years. But what surprised her was how comfortable she felt sitting in the passenger seat as Gabriel started the engine and turned up the heat to warm them both. Where do you live? Gabriel asked, pulling out of the parking space with practiced ease. The Riverside Apartments on 5th Street, Amara replied, still feeling slightly stunned by everything that had happened. It's about 10 minutes from here. Gabriel nodded and began driving in that direction. The silence in the car wasn't uncomfortable, but Amara found herself stealing glances at her rescuer. He had strong hands on the steering wheel and a calm, focused expression as he navigated through the rain. There was something about him that made her feel safe, which was remarkable considering she had just met him 20 minutes ago. So, Gabriel said after a few minutes, do you think your ex-boyfriend will leave you alone now? Amara sighed. I hope so. Jerome doesn't usually back down that easily, but you seem to intimidate him. I've never seen anyone make him back off like that before. Some men only understand strength, Gabriel said quietly. The important thing is that you're safe now. As they drove through the city, Amara found herself wondering about this mysterious stranger who had come to her rescue. What do you do for work? She asked. If you don't mind me asking. Gabriel glanced at her with a small smile. I run a tech company here in the city. Martinez Technologies. What about you? Amara's heart nearly stopped. Martinez Technologies was one of the biggest companies in the city. She had actually applied for a job there 6 months ago and been hired as a junior programmer. Oh my God, she breathed. You're Gabriel Martinez. You're my boss. Gabriel looked surprised. You work for my company? I'm a programmer in the software development department, Amara said, feeling her cheeks burn with embarrassment. I can't believe I didn't recognize you. I've only seen you in company newsletters and at the big meetings, but still. Don't be embarrassed, Gabriel said warmly. The company has over 3,000 employees. I wouldn't expect everyone to recognize me. Besides, you had other things on your mind tonight. They pulled up in front of Amara's apartment building, a modest structure that had seen better days. Amara felt suddenly self-conscious about the difference between where she lived and the obviously expensive car she was sitting in. Thank you for the ride, she said, reaching for the door handle. And thank you for helping me back there. I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't been there. Wait, Gabriel said before she could get out. I want to give you my personal phone number. If that man bothers you again, I want you to call me immediately. Amara started to protest. Mr. Martinez, I couldn't possibly. Gabriel, he corrected gently. And yes, you can. What happened tonight was serious, Amara. If he's been following you for weeks, he's not going to give up easily. I want you to have a way to reach me if you need help. He pulled out his business card and wrote a number on the back. This is my personal cell phone. I keep it on 24 hours a day. Promise me you'll call if you need anything. Amara took the card with trembling hands. I promise. But I hope I won't need to. So do I, Gabriel said. But if you do, don't hesitate. Not even for a second. As Amara walked up the steps to her apartment building, she kept looking back at Gabriel's car. He waited until she was safely inside before driving away, which was a kindness she hadn't expected. In her experience, most people were happy to help when it was convenient, but they rarely went out of their way to make sure you were truly okay. Inside her small apartment, Amara sat on her couch and stared at Gabriel's business card. The front had his company information printed in elegant letters, and on the back his personal number was written in neat handwriting. She couldn't believe that the mysterious stranger who had saved her was actually Gabriel Martinez, one of the most successful businessmen in the city. But more than that, she couldn't believe how kind he had been. He could have simply played along with her desperate request and then walked away once Jerome was gone. Instead, he had made sure she got home safely and given her a way to contact him if she needed help again. The next morning, Amara woke up feeling more rested than she had in weeks. For the first time since Jerome had started following her, she felt like maybe she wasn't completely alone in dealing with this situation. As she got ready for work, she found herself looking forward to seeing Gabriel again, even if it was just in passing at the office. When she arrived at Martinez Technologies, everything looked different to her now. She had always known it was a successful company, but now she found herself noticing details she had missed before. The modern lobby with its clean lines and expensive furniture, the way employees moved with purpose and confidence, the general atmosphere of success and innovation. Amara made her way to her desk in the programming department and tried to focus on her work. But she kept thinking about the night before and wondering if Gabriel would remember her when he saw her around the office. She got her answer around lunchtime. Amara Johnson? A well-dressed woman in her 40s approached Amara's desk. I'm Rachel Thompson, Mr. Martinez's executive assistant. He'd like to see you in his office when you have a moment. Amara's co-workers looked at her with curious expressions. It was unusual for someone at her level to be called to the CEO's office. Is everything okay? Amara asked nervously. Rachel smiled. Everything's fine. Mr. Martinez just wanted to check in with you about a project. Amara followed Rachel through the building to the executive floor, which she had never visited before. Gabriel's office was impressive but not ostentatious, with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a beautiful view of the city. Gabriel looked up when she entered, and his face brightened with a genuine smile. Amara, please come in. How are you feeling today? Much better, thank you, she said, taking the seat he gestured to across from his desk. I slept better last night than I have in weeks. I'm glad to hear that, Gabriel said. I wanted to check on you and also discuss something work-related. I've been reviewing the employee files in the programming department, and I noticed that you've been with us for 6 months now. Amara nodded, not sure where this was going. Your supervisor has nothing but excellent things to say about your work, Gabriel continued. Apparently you've been solving problems that more senior programmers have struggled with, and you've been doing it efficiently and creatively. I enjoy the work, Amara said simply. I've always been good with computers and problem solving. Gabriel leaned forward slightly. I have a proposition for you. We have an opening for a senior programmer position, and I think you would be perfect for it. It comes with a significant raise and more interesting projects to work on. Amara felt her mouth drop open. Mr. Martinez? Gabriel? I don't know what to say. That's incredibly generous, but I've only been here 6 months. There must be other people who are more qualified. There are people who have been here longer, Gabriel acknowledged. But qualifications aren't just about time served. They're about talent, dedication, and results. And from what I've seen, you have all three. I don't want you to think I'm expecting special treatment because of what happened last night, Amara said quietly. If this offer is because you feel sorry for me. Gabriel's expression became serious. Amara, I want you to listen to me carefully. This promotion has nothing to do with last night. I started reviewing personnel files last week because we needed to fill this position. Your name came up because of your work performance, not because of our personal interaction. He opened a folder on his desk and showed her several evaluation reports. These are from your supervisor and from other programmers who have worked with you on projects. They all say the same thing. You're talented, reliable, and creative. That's why I'm offering you this position. Amara looked at the reports, feeling a mixture of pride and disbelief. She had worked hard since starting at Martinez Technologies, but she hadn't realized that anyone had noticed. The position comes with a 40% salary increase, Gabriel continued, and you'll be working on more advanced projects. You'll also have the opportunity to mentor junior programmers and contribute to the strategic direction of our software development. 40% more money would change everything for Amara. She would be able to move to a safer neighborhood, help her mother with her medical bills, and maybe even start saving for the future. I accept, she said, the words coming out before she could second-guess herself. Thank you, Gabriel. This means more to me than you could possibly know. Gabriel smiled. I'm glad you're willing to take on the challenge. You start in your new role on Monday. Rachel will give you all the details about your new office and responsibilities. As Amara stood to leave, Gabriel called her name. One more thing. How are you getting home tonight? I usually take the bus, Amara replied. Would you like a ride? I was planning to leave around 6 and I'd be happy to give you a lift. Amara started to decline, but then she remembered Gabriel's words from the night before about not hesitating to accept help when she needed it. The truth was she was still nervous about being alone after dark. If it's not too much trouble, she said. No trouble at all, Gabriel replied. I'll see you at 6. As Amara walked back to her desk, she felt like she was floating. Not only had she escaped from Jerome the night before, but now she had been offered an amazing opportunity that would change her life for the better. For the first time in years, she felt like things were finally looking up. She had no idea that Gabriel's kindness was just beginning, or that the promotion was only the first of many generous gestures he would make in the coming weeks. The weekend passed quietly for Amara. She spent Saturday moving into her new office on the 5th floor of Martinez Technologies, which was 3 floors higher than where she had been working before. The office had a window that looked out over the city, and she couldn't help but smile every time she looked up from her computer screen. On Monday morning, Gabriel stopped by her office around 10 o'clock to see how she was settling in. Everything going well? He asked, leaning against the doorframe with a cup of coffee in his hand. Better than well, Amara replied, gesturing to the stack of project files on her desk. I love the new challenges. Thank you again for this opportunity. Gabriel nodded, but she noticed his expression become slightly concerned. Can I ask you something? And please be honest with me. Of course. Are you working double shifts somewhere else? Amara felt her cheeks warm with embarrassment. How did you know? You look tired, and I noticed you were here until almost 9 o'clock on Friday night, even though your regular hours end at 5:30. I'm wondering if you're overworking yourself. Amara hesitated. She didn't want Gabriel to think she wasn't dedicated to her job at Martinez Technologies, but she also didn't want to lie to him. I work at a restaurant on evenings and weekends, she admitted. I wait tables at Romano's downtown. I've been doing it for about a year now. May I ask why? The salary from your new position should be enough to live on comfortably. Amara looked down at her hands. My mom has diabetes and her medical bills are pretty expensive. My little brother Damon is in college and I help him with tuition. The extra money from the restaurant helps me make sure everyone's taken care of. Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, and when Amara looked up, she was surprised to see something like admiration in his eyes. That's incredibly generous of you, he said quietly. But I'm concerned that you're going to burn yourself out. Working 60 hours a week isn't sustainable. I can handle it, Amara said quickly. I don't want you to think it affects my work here. I don't think that, Gabriel assured her. Your work here is excellent. But I have an idea that might help. He sat down in the chair across from her desk. What if I told you that we have a consulting contract available that would pay you enough to quit your restaurant job? Amara blinked. What kind of consulting? We're developing a new software platform for small businesses, Gabriel explained. It's a big project, and we need someone with your skills to work on it during evenings and weekends. The pay would be equivalent to what you're making at the restaurant, but you'd be working from home in your own time, doing something you're actually trained for. That sounds too good to be true, Amara said slowly. Gabriel pulled out a contract from the folder he was carrying. It's completely legitimate. We were going to hire an outside consulting firm, but I'd rather keep the work in-house with someone I trust. Amara read through the contract carefully. The terms were incredibly generous, more generous than anything she had ever seen. Gabriel, this is amazing, but I have to ask, are you doing this because you feel sorry for me? Gabriel leaned forward in his chair. Amara, I want you to understand something. I'm a businessman. I don't make decisions based on pity or charity. I make them based on what's best for my company and my employees. He gestured to the contract. This project is real and it's important. I need someone with your specific skills to work on it. The fact that it would also help solve your financial situation is just a happy coincidence. But why me specifically? There are other senior programmers who could do this work. Because you have something the others don't, Gabriel said. You understand what it's like to struggle. This software platform is designed to help small business owners manage their finances and operations more efficiently. I need someone who understands the challenges that small businesses face, someone who knows what it's like to work multiple jobs just to pay the bills. Amara felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. You really think I can do this? I know you can, Gabriel said confidently. The question is, will you? Amara looked at the contract again. The money would be enough to quit her restaurant job and still help her family. She would have her evenings back and she could focus on the work she actually loved. Yes, she said, signing her name on the contract. Thank you, Gabriel. I don't know how to express how grateful I am. Gabriel smiled. You can express it by doing excellent work, which I know you will. As Gabriel stood to leave, Amara called after him. Can I ask you something now? Of course. Why are you being so kind to me? I mean, you saved me from Jerome, you promoted me, and now this. I just want to understand. Gabriel paused in the doorway and looked back at her thoughtfully. Do you believe that everyone deserves a chance to succeed? Yes. So do I. And sometimes people just need someone to believe in them and give them the opportunities they deserve. He smiled. You're talented and hardworking, Amara. All I'm doing is making sure you have the chance to use those talents. After Gabriel left, Amara sat at her desk staring at the signed contract. In the space of 1 week, her entire life had changed. She had gone from being scared and struggling to having a career she loved and the financial security to help her family. That evening, she called Romano's restaurant and gave her 2 weeks' notice. Her manager was disappointed but understanding, especially when Amara explained that she had received a promotion at her day job. When she got home that night, Amara called her mother to share the good news. Mama, I have something amazing to tell you, she said as soon as her mother picked up the phone. What is it, baby? I got a promotion at work and I got a consulting contract too. I'm going to be making enough money to quit the restaurant job. There was silence on the other end of the line for a moment, and then Amara heard her mother start to cry. Mama, are you okay? I'm more than okay, her mother said through her tears. I'm so proud of you, Amara. And I'm so relieved. I've been so worried about you working yourself to death. You don't have to worry anymore, Amara assured her. Things are finally looking up. How did this all happen so suddenly? Amara thought about how to explain Gabriel's role in her recent good fortune. I met someone who believes in me, she said finally. Someone who saw my potential and gave me a chance. Well, whoever they are, I'd like to thank them personally someday. As Amara hung up the phone, she realized that she would like her mother to meet Gabriel too. There was something special about him, something that went beyond his success and wealth. He had a genuine desire to help people, and he did it without expecting anything in return. Over the next few weeks, Amara threw herself into both her new position and the consulting project. The work was challenging but rewarding, and she found herself looking forward to going to the office each day. Gabriel checked on her progress regularly, offering guidance and support whenever she needed it. But it wasn't just professional support that Gabriel offered. When Amara mentioned that her car had broken down and she was taking the bus to work, Gabriel arranged for the company's auto mechanic to fix it at no charge. When she worried about her mother's upcoming medical appointment, Gabriel recommended an excellent doctor and made sure she got priority scheduling. Each time Amara tried to protest that he was being too generous, Gabriel would give her the same response. Helping good people succeed is what good business is all about. Slowly, Amara began to realize that Gabriel's kindness wasn't just about business. There was something in the way he looked at her, something in the way he remembered small details about her life and her concerns. She began to wonder if his feelings toward her were becoming something more than professional respect. The thought both excited and terrified her. Gabriel was successful, wealthy, and undoubtedly the most generous man she had ever met. But he was also her boss and she was still recovering from her relationship with Jerome. She wasn't sure she was ready for anything romantic, no matter how wonderful the man might be. But as the weeks passed and Gabriel continued to show her nothing but kindness and respect, Amara began to think that maybe, just maybe, she was ready to trust someone with her heart again. Have you ever met someone who changed your entire life with just one act of kindness? What would you do if you were in Amara's position? Let us know in the comments and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this incredible love story. 3 weeks into her new role, Amara was working late on the consulting project when Gabriel knocked on her office door. It was almost 7 o'clock and most of the building was empty. Still here? He asked, though she could see he was carrying his own briefcase and wearing his coat, clearly having worked late himself. The small business platform is more complex than I initially thought, Amara replied, gesturing to her computer screen. But I think I'm making good progress. Gabriel came around to look at her work and Amara caught a hint of his cologne, something subtle and expensive that made her briefly lose focus on the code in front of her. This looks excellent, Gabriel said, studying her programming. You've solved the inventory management integration much more elegantly than I expected. Thank you. I've been thinking about it from the perspective of my friend Carmen who owns a small bakery. She's always complaining about how hard it is to keep track of supplies and orders, so I tried to design something that would make sense to someone like her. Gabriel smiled. That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Can I ask you something? Of course. Would you like to grab dinner? I know a quiet place nearby, and we could discuss the next phase of the project. Unless you have other plans. Amara hesitated. It sounded like a business dinner, but something in Gabriel's tone made her think it might be something more. Is this about work? Partially, Gabriel admitted. But I'd also just like to spend time with you outside the office. Get to know you better as a person, not just as an employee. The honesty in his voice made Amara's heart skip a beat. I'd like that, she said quietly. The restaurant Gabriel chose was indeed quiet, with dim lighting and private booths that allowed for intimate conversation. Amara felt slightly underdressed in her work clothes, but Gabriel seemed completely focused on her rather than on appearances. Tell me about your family, Gabriel said after they had ordered. You mentioned your mother and brother. My mom raised Damon and me on her own after my father left when I was 12, Amara replied. She worked 2 jobs to keep us fed and clothed and she never complained about it. She's the strongest person I know. That's where you get it from then, Gabriel said. Get what? Your strength. Your determination to take care of the people you love, even when it means sacrificing for yourself. Amara felt warmth spread through her chest at his words. What about your family? Do you have siblings? Gabriel's expression became more guarded. I have a younger sister, Elena. She lives in California with her husband and their 2 kids. We don't see each other as often as we'd like. And your parents? They passed away in a car accident when I was 25, Gabriel said quietly. Elena was still in college at the time. I took over the family business and used it to build Martinez Technologies. I'm sorry, Amara said, reaching across the table to touch his hand without thinking. That must have been incredibly difficult. Gabriel looked down at her hand on his and she started to pull away, but he caught her fingers gently. It was the hardest thing I've ever been through, he admitted. But it also taught me that life is short and unpredictable. You have to appreciate the good people in your life while you have them. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, hands still linked across the table. Amara felt something shifting between them, a deepening of trust and understanding that went beyond their professional relationship. Can I ask you something personal? Gabriel said. Amara nodded. How long were you with Jerome? 2 years, Amara replied, her stomach tightening at the mention of her ex. Looking back, I can see that he was controlling from the beginning, but it happened gradually. Little comments about my clothes or my friends, wanting to know where I was all the time, getting angry when I didn't text him back immediately. Gabriel's hand tightened slightly on hers. When did it become physical? About 6 months before I left him. It started with grabbing my arm too tight when he was angry, then pushing me against walls during arguments. The last time, he hit me hard enough to leave a bruise on my face. Amara touched her cheek unconsciously. That's when I knew I had to get out. I'm glad you found the courage to leave, Gabriel said seriously. It takes incredible strength to walk away from an abusive relationship. I was terrified, Amara admitted. I had no savings, nowhere to go, and Jerome kept telling me I'd never make it on my own. For a while, I believed him. But you did make it on your own, Gabriel said. You got a job, an apartment, and you've been supporting your family. That's not just surviving, Amara. That's succeeding. Amara felt tears prick at her eyes. I've never thought about it that way. You should. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met. As they finished dinner, their conversation flowed easily from work to family to their hopes for the future. Gabriel told her about his dream of expanding Martinez Technologies internationally, and Amara shared her goal of eventually starting a nonprofit to teach coding skills to underprivileged kids. That's a beautiful idea, Gabriel said as they walked to his car. Have you thought about what you'd need to make it happen? Funding mainly, Amara replied. And space for classes, computers, volunteer instructors. It's probably just a pipe dream. Gabriel stopped walking and turned to face her. It's not a pipe dream if you're serious about it. Good ideas with passionate people behind them have a way of becoming reality. You really think so? I know so. In fact, I'd like to help you explore the possibility. Martinez Technologies has a community outreach program that might be able to provide some of the resources you'd need. Amara stared at him in amazement. You would do that? Why do you always seem surprised when people want to help you? Gabriel asked gently. Because in my experience, most people only help when they want something in return. Gabriel stepped closer to her, and Amara could see the sincerity in his eyes under the streetlight. Then you haven't been around the right people. Good people help because it's the right thing to do, not because they expect something back. As they drove back to her apartment, Amara found herself studying Gabriel's profile in the dashboard light. He was handsome certainly, but it was more than that. There was a kindness about him that seemed to radiate from within, a genuine desire to make the world better for the people around him. "Gabriel," she said as they pulled up in front of her building. "Yes. Tonight was wonderful. Thank you for dinner and for everything you've done for me these past few weeks." Gabriel turned to look at her, and there was something in his expression that made her breath catch. "Amara, I want you to know that everything I've done because I care about you. Not just as an employee but as a person." "I care about you too," she said softly. For a moment, it seemed like Gabriel might lean across the car to kiss her, and Amara felt her heart racing with anticipation. But instead, he reached over and gently squeezed her hand. "I want to take this slowly," he said. "I know you're still recovering from what Jerome put you through, and I don't want to rush you into anything you're not ready for." The consideration in his voice made Amara's chest tighten with emotion. Jerome had never shown her that kind of patience or respect. "Thank you for understanding," she whispered. "Of course. But I want you to know that when you're ready, I'll be here." As Amara walked up to her apartment that night, she felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Not just hope for financial security or career success, but hope for love. Real love, the kind built on respect and trust and genuine caring. Over the next few days, Gabriel continued to check on her progress with the consulting project, but their interactions had a new warmth to them. He brought her coffee in the mornings, remembered details about her weekend plans, and always made sure she wasn't working too late. On Friday afternoon, Gabriel appeared in her office doorway with a concerned expression. "Is everything okay?" Amara asked, noticing his frown. "I just got off the phone with building security. Jerome was here about an hour ago, asking for your office number. Security didn't give him any information, but they wanted me to know." Amara felt ice-cold fear wash over her. "He came here? To my workplace?" Gabriel nodded grimly. "I've already asked security to add his photo to their watch list. If he shows up again, they'll call the police immediately." "I thought he had given up," Amara said, her voice shaking slightly. "It's been weeks since I've seen him." Gabriel came around her desk and knelt beside her chair, taking her hands in his. "Look at me, Amara. You're safe here, okay? I won't let anything happen to you. What if he's waiting for me when I leave? What if he follows me home?" "He won't get the chance," Gabriel said firmly. "I'm driving you home every day until we figure out how to deal with this permanently." "Gabriel, I can't ask you to do that." "You're not asking. I'm telling you." His voice was gentle but determined. "Amara, I meant what I said the other night. I care about you, and that means I'm going to make sure you're safe." That evening, Gabriel not only drove her home but walked her to her apartment door and waited until she was safely inside before leaving. As Amara watched from her window as his car pulled away, she realized that for the first time since meeting Jerome, she felt truly protected. But more than that, she was beginning to understand that what she felt for Gabriel went far beyond gratitude. Somewhere between his first act of kindness and his continued gentle support, she had started falling in love with him. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. She had trusted Jerome once, and that had nearly destroyed her. But Gabriel was different. Everything about him was different. The question was, did she have the courage to trust her heart again? Saturday morning started like any other weekend for Amara. She was working on the consulting project from her apartment when her phone rang. The caller ID showed her mother's number, which wasn't unusual, but something in her mother's voice immediately set off alarm bells. "Amara, honey, I need you to come to the hospital right away." Amara's blood ran cold. "Mama, what happened? Are you okay?" "It's Damon. He collapsed at school last night. They rushed him to City General and the doctors are running tests." Amara was already grabbing her keys and purse. "I'm on my way." "What do the doctors think it is?" "They're not sure yet. His fever spiked to 104, and he's been having severe abdominal pain. They mentioned something about his appendix, but they want to do more tests." 20 minutes later, Amara burst through the doors of City General Hospital and found her mother in the waiting area outside the emergency department. Grace Johnson looked smaller and more fragile than Amara had ever seen her, clutching a cup of cold coffee with trembling hands. "Any news?" Amara asked, wrapping her arms around her mother. "They took him for a CT scan about an hour ago. The doctor said we should know something soon. They sat together in the uncomfortable plastic chairs, watching other families deal with their own crises. After what felt like hours but was probably only 30 minutes, a doctor in scrubs approached them. "Mrs. Johnson? I'm Dr. Patterson. I've been treating your son. How is he?" Grace asked, standing up quickly. "Damon is stable, but I'm afraid it's not his appendix. The CT scan shows that he has a large mass in his abdomen that we need to investigate further." Amara felt the world tilt around her. What kind of mass? "We won't know for certain until we do a biopsy, but given his age and symptoms, we're concerned it could be a type of lymphoma. The good news is that if that's what it is, it's highly treatable, especially in young adults." "What happens now?" Amara's mother asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "We're admitting him for observation and to start the biopsy process. We should have more definitive answers by Monday or Tuesday." After the doctor left, Amara and her mother sat in stunned silence. Finally, Grace began to cry quietly. "I can't lose him, Amara. I can't lose my baby." "You're not going to lose him, Mama," Amara said firmly, though her own heart was breaking. "We're going to get through this together." They were allowed to see Damon a few hours later. Her 20-year-old brother looked pale and scared in the hospital bed, hooked up to various monitors and 4 lines. "Hey, big sister," he said weakly when she entered the room. "Hey yourself, troublemaker," Amara replied, trying to keep her voice light. "Leave it to you to find a dramatic way to get out of studying for finals." Damon managed a small smile. "The doctors say it might be serious." "Then we'll deal with serious," Amara said, taking his hand. "Whatever this is, we'll fight it together." She stayed at the hospital until visiting hours ended, then drove her exhausted mother home with promises to return first thing in the morning. But once she was alone in her apartment, the full weight of the situation hit her. If Damon was seriously ill, the medical bills would be enormous. Even with insurance, cancer treatment could cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Her new salary and consulting income were good, but they wouldn't be nearly enough to cover that kind of expense. Without really thinking about it, Amara found herself calling Gabriel's personal number. "Hello." His voice was warm and concerned when he recognized her number. "Gabriel, I'm sorry to bother you on a weekend, but..." Amara's voice broke and she started crying. "Amara, what's wrong? Where are you?" "I'm at home. It's my brother Damon. He's in the hospital and the doctors think he might have cancer." "I'm coming over," Gabriel said immediately. "No, you don't have to do that. I just needed to talk to someone and I didn't know who else to call." "I'll be there in 20 minutes, Gabriel said firmly. "Don't argue with me." True to his word, Gabriel was at her door in 20 minutes, carrying a bag from her favorite Chinese restaurant and wearing jeans and a sweater instead of his usual business attire. The casual clothes made him look younger and more approachable, but it was the expression of genuine concern on his face that made Amara start crying again. "Come here," Gabriel said, setting down the food and opening his arms. Amara stepped into his embrace and let herself break down completely. Gabriel held her while she sobbed, stroking her hair and murmuring comforting words. "Tell me what happened," he said gently when her tears finally subsided. They sat on her couch while Amara explained about Damon's collapse, the hospital visit, and the doctor's preliminary diagnosis. Gabriel listened without interruption, his face growing more serious as she talked. "What can I do to help?" he asked when she finished. "There's nothing anyone can do right now except wait for the test results." "Amara, look at me." Gabriel took her hands in his. "If Damon needs treatment, I want you to know that money won't be an issue. Whatever the insurance doesn't cover, I'll take care of." Amara shook her head immediately. "Gabriel, I can't let you do that. Medical bills for cancer treatment could be hundreds of thousands of dollars. So that's too much. I can't accept that kind of help from anyone." Gabriel's expression became very serious. "Why not?" Because it's too much. Because I'd never be able to pay you back. Because I don't want you to think I'm taking advantage of your kindness." Gabriel was quiet for a long moment, then he said, "Can I tell you about my parents?" Amara nodded, surprised by the change of subject. "When I was 15, my father was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer. We had good insurance, but the experimental treatments he needed weren't covered. My mother sold her jewelry, my father mortgaged the house, and we spent every penny we had trying to save his life." Gabriel paused, his eyes distant with memory. "It wasn't enough. We ran out of money before we ran out of treatment options. My father died knowing that if we'd had more resources, he might have lived." "Gabriel, I'm so sorry." After he died, I promised myself that if I ever had the means to help someone in a similar situation, I would do it. No questions asked, no expectations of repayment. He looked directly into her eyes. I have those means now, Amara. Please don't let your pride prevent me from keeping that promise. Tears started flowing down Amara's cheeks again. I don't know what to say. Say you'll let me help. Say you'll let me make sure Damon gets the best possible care, regardless of cost. Amara thought about her brother lying in that hospital bed, scared and fighting for his life. She thought about her mother's desperate plea that she couldn't lose her baby. And she thought about Gabriel's father, dying not because medicine couldn't save him, but because money couldn't. Okay, she whispered. Thank you. Gabriel smiled and pulled her back into his arms. You don't have to thank me. This is what people who care about each other do. As they held each other on her couch, Amara realized that this was a turning point in their relationship. Gabriel wasn't just offering money, he was offering to share her family's burden, to stand with them during the most difficult time in their lives. There's something else, Gabriel said quietly. I want you to know that you can take as much time off work as you need. Your job will be waiting for you whenever you're ready to come back, and your salary will continue as normal. Gabriel? I mean it, Amara. Family comes first. Always. Over the next few days, Gabriel proved that his words weren't empty promises. He arranged for Damon to be transferred to the city's best cancer treatment center, where he was seen by the top oncologists in the region. He made sure Grace had a comfortable place to stay near the hospital, and he quietly took care of all the bills and expenses that began accumulating. But more than the financial support, Gabriel provided emotional support for Amara and her family. He visited Damon in the hospital, bringing books and games to help pass the time. He took Grace out for meals when she refused to leave the hospital to eat. And he held Amara when the test results confirmed that Damon did indeed have lymphoma, though thankfully a type with an excellent prognosis when caught early. The doctor says with the right treatment, Damon has a 90% chance of complete recovery, Amara told Gabriel after meeting with the oncology team. That's wonderful news, Gabriel said, though Amara could see the relief in his eyes matched her own. The treatment will take about 6 months and it won't be easy, but he's young and strong. Gabriel nodded. And he has an incredible support system. You and your mother are amazing women, Amara. Damon is lucky to have you. As they stood in the hospital hallway, Amara looked at this man who had entered her life so unexpectedly and changed everything. He had shown her kindness without conditions, generosity without expectations, and love without demands. I love you, she said suddenly, the words coming out before she could stop them. Gabriel's face lit up with joy. I love you too, he said, cupping her face gently in his hands. I've loved you since that first night in the rain when you showed me what real courage looks like. When Gabriel finally kissed her, standing there in the bright hospital hallway, Amara felt like she was coming home after a long, difficult journey. This was what love was supposed to feel like, safe, warm, and full of infinite possibility. The weeks that followed brought Damon's first rounds of chemotherapy and a new rhythm to their lives. Amara split her time between the hospital, working remotely on her consulting project, and spending quiet evenings with Gabriel, who had become a constant, steady presence through the chaos. Gabriel had arranged for Damon to have a private room at the cancer center, and he'd made sure it was equipped with everything a 20-year-old college student could want. A large TV, gaming system, high-speed internet, and a comfortable chair for visitors. More importantly, he'd hired the best oncology team in the state to oversee Damon's care. You know what I like most about your boyfriend? Damon asked Amara one Tuesday afternoon as she helped him with some schoolwork his professors had sent over. What's that? Amara replied, though her heart did a little skip at hearing Damon call Gabriel her boyfriend. They hadn't officially defined their relationship yet, but it felt right. He doesn't act like he's doing us some huge favor. He just shows up and helps like it's the most natural thing in the world. Amara looked across the room where Gabriel was sitting with their mother, showing her something on his phone. Grace had been hesitant around Gabriel at first, suspicious of his wealth and worried about his intentions toward her daughter. But over the past few weeks she'd warmed up to him as she saw how genuine his care was for their entire family. He is pretty special, Amara agreed. Are you going to marry him? The question caught Amara off guard. Damon, we've only been, whatever we are, for a few weeks. So, when you know, you know. And it's obvious you two are crazy about each other. That evening, Gabriel drove Amara home from the hospital as had become their routine. Instead of dropping her off at her apartment, though, he asked if she'd like to see his place. If you're too tired, I understand, he said quickly. I just thought it might be nice to have somewhere quiet to relax. Gabriel's penthouse apartment was exactly what Amara would have expected from a successful businessman. Spacious, elegantly decorated, and filled with beautiful artwork. But what surprised her were the personal touches. Family photos on the mantelpiece, a well-used guitar in the corner, and shelves lined with books that had clearly been read many times. "This is beautiful," Amara said, walking to the floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city lights. "Thank you. I don't actually spend much time here usually. I tend to work too much." "What's changed?" Amara asked, though she suspected she knew the answer. Gabriel came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, resting his chin on her shoulder. "You changed. Having someone I want to come home to makes all the difference." Amara leaned back against his chest, feeling completely safe and content for the first time in months. "Gabriel, can I ask you something?" "Anything." "Why me? I mean, you could have anyone. You're successful, kind, generous. You could be with someone who doesn't come with all the complications I bring." Gabriel turned her around to face him, his expression serious. "Do you really want to know?" Amara nodded. "The night I met you, when you asked me to pretend to hug you, I saw something in your eyes that I recognized. You were scared, but you weren't giving up. You were fighting back the only way you knew how." He brushed a strand of hair away from her face. "I've met a lot of people in my life, Amara. Rich people, successful people, people who seem to have everything. But most of them have never had to fight for anything. They've never had to show real courage. I don't feel very courageous most of the time. That's what makes you brave. True courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what you have to do despite being afraid." Gabriel led her to the couch and pulled her down beside him. "You left an abusive relationship with no money and no safety net because you knew you deserved better. You work multiple jobs to support your family without complaining. You're facing your brother's illness with strength and grace. If that's not courage, I don't know what is." "I couldn't do any of it without you now," Amara said quietly. "Yes, you could. You were surviving just fine before I came along. I'm just grateful I get to be part of your life now." They spent the evening talking about everything and nothing, curled up together on Gabriel's couch. Amara told him about her childhood dreams of becoming a teacher, and Gabriel shared his plans for expanding his company's charitable foundation. They talked about favorite books and movies, childhood memories, and hopes for the future. "I have something to show you," Gabriel said around midnight, leading her to his home office. The room was lined with bookshelves and dominated by a large desk, but what caught Amara's attention was the whiteboard on one wall covered in notes and diagrams. "What is this?" she asked. Gabriel looked slightly embarrassed. "It's a business plan for your nonprofit. The coding classes for underprivileged kids that you mentioned." Amara stared at the board in amazement. Gabriel had outlined everything: startup costs, potential funding sources, curriculum development, staffing needs, and location options. "You did all this?" "I told you I wanted to help you explore the possibility. I've been researching it in my spare time." Amara studied the detailed plans, feeling overwhelmed by the thoroughness and thoughtfulness Gabriel had put into her dream. "This is incredible. You really think it could work?" "I think it could be amazing. Look at this." Gabriel pointed to a section of the board. "There are several grants available for technology education programs. Combined with corporate sponsorship and individual donations, we could easily fund the first year of operation." Gabriel turned to face her, his expression hopeful. "If you want a partner in this venture, I'd love to be involved. Not just financially but as a hands-on participant." Amara felt tears prick at her eyes. "You would do that? You'd actually want to teach coding classes to kids?" "Amara, half of success is having someone believe in your dreams. I believe in yours and I want to help make them real." Without thinking, Amara threw her arms around Gabriel's neck and kissed him. It was different from their first kiss at the hospital. This one was full of joy and possibility and deep, abiding love. "I love you so much," she whispered against his lips. "I love you too," Gabriel replied. "More than I ever thought possible." The next few weeks passed in a blur of hospital visits, treatment schedules, and quiet moments with Gabriel. Damon's response to the chemotherapy was excellent, and the doctors were optimistic about his prognosis. Grace had stopped looking at Gabriel with suspicion and had started treating him like a member of the family. One evening, as they were leaving the hospital after a particularly good day, Damon's latest scans showed the tumor was shrinking significantly. Gabriel took Amara's hand in the parking lot. "How would you feel about Damon and your mother coming to dinner at my place this weekend?" he asked. "I thought I could cook for everyone. Give your mom a break from hospital cafeteria food." "You cook?" Amara asked, surprised. Gabriel grinned. I make an excellent pasta sauce. My grandmother's recipe. They would love that. But are you sure? My family can be a lot to handle all at once. Amara, your family is part of you. I want to know all the parts of you. Saturday evening, Gabriel's apartment was filled with laughter and conversation. Grace had brought homemade cornbread, Damon was feeling well enough to eat a full meal for the first time in weeks, and Gabriel's pasta was indeed excellent. As Amara watched Gabriel help her mother clear the dishes while Damon regaled them with stories from his college classes, she realized that this was what happiness looked like. Not just the absence of problems, but the presence of love and support and genuine connection. He's a keeper, Grace whispered to her daughter as they stood in Gabriel's kitchen. I think so too, Mama. Good. Because that man looks at you like you hung the moon, and you light up like a Christmas tree every time he walks in a room. Later that night, after taking Grace and Damon back to the hotel where they were staying near the hospital, Gabriel and Amara sat on his balcony looking out over the city. Thank you for tonight, Amara said. It meant everything to them. To me. It meant everything to me too, Gabriel replied. I love seeing you happy. I never thought I could feel this way again. After Jerome, I thought maybe I was broken somehow. Like maybe I wasn't meant to have this kind of love. Gabriel turned to look at her, his expression serious. You were never broken, Amara. You were just with the wrong person. Jerome didn't deserve you. How do you know you're the right person? Gabriel smiled. Because when I look at you, I don't see someone I want to change or control. I see someone I want to support and cherish and grow old with. As they sat together under the stars, Amara felt a deep sense of peace settle over her. For the first time in her adult life, she was exactly where she was supposed to be, with exactly the person she was supposed to be with. She had no idea that Jerome was planning his return to her life, or that the happiness she'd found with Gabriel would soon be tested in ways she couldn't imagine. 3 months into Damon's treatment, life had settled into a comfortable routine. Damon was responding well to chemotherapy, Amara was excelling in both her regular job and consulting work, and her relationship with Gabriel was growing stronger each day. They had even begun seriously planning the nonprofit coding school, with Gabriel securing a potential location and Amara developing the curriculum. It was a Tuesday morning in late spring when everything changed. Amara was in her office, reviewing code for the small business platform, when Gabriel appeared in her doorway. His usually calm demeanor was replaced by obvious stress, and his tie was loosened like he'd been running his hands through his hair. We have a problem, he said without preamble. A big one. What happened? Gabriel closed her office door and sat down heavily in the chair across from her desk. DataSync Industries is trying to steal the Morrison account. Amara felt her stomach drop. Morrison Electronics was Martinez Technologies' largest client, representing nearly 30% of their annual revenue. Losing them would be devastating. How is that possible? We've had the Morrison contract for 5 years. Apparently, DataSync has been courting them for months, Gabriel explained. They're offering to undercut our pricing by 40% and promising faster delivery on the new inventory management system. Can they actually deliver on those promises? Gabriel's expression was grim. That's what we need to find out. Morrison is giving us 1 week to present a counter-proposal. If we can't match DataSync's offer and prove we can deliver superior results, we lose the contract. Amara could see the weight of the situation in Gabriel's eyes. Martinez Technologies employed over 3,000 people. Losing a contract this size could mean significant layoffs, maybe even bankruptcy. What do you need me to do? She asked. I need you to drop everything else and focus on this. I'm putting together a crisis team to develop our response strategy, and I want you leading the technical development. Gabriel, I'm flattered, but shouldn't this go to someone more senior? I've only been in my current position for a few months. Amara, you understand inventory management systems better than anyone else in the company. The work you've been doing on the small business platform is exactly what Morrison needs, just scaled up. If anyone can find a way to beat DataSync's proposal, it's you. Over the next few days, Amara threw herself into the project with an intensity she'd never experienced before. She worked 18-hour days, analyzing DataSync's proposal, identifying weaknesses in their approach, and developing innovations that would give Martinez Technologies a competitive edge. Gabriel was working just as hard, meeting with investors, negotiating with suppliers, and trying to find ways to reduce costs without compromising quality. The stress was taking a toll on both of them, but they pushed through it together. I think I found something, Amara said on Friday evening, bursting into Gabriel's office where he was reviewing financial projections with his CFO. What is it? Amara pulled up her laptop and began explaining. DataSync is promising a 40% cost reduction, but they're cutting corners that will cause problems later. Look at their data security protocols. Gabriel and his CFO studied her analysis, and she could see understanding dawn in Gabriel's eyes. They're using outdated encryption standards, he said. Exactly. And their backup systems are inadequate for a company Morrison's size. If Morrison has a data breach or system failure, DataSync's solution would leave them vulnerable to lawsuits and regulatory fines that could cost millions. Can we prove this? Amara nodded. I've run simulations of both systems under various stress conditions. DataSync's solution fails catastrophically in 3 different scenarios that Morrison is likely to encounter within the first year. Gabriel's CFO whistled low. If we can demonstrate this to Morrison, we can show them that what looks like a bargain up front could cost them exponentially more in the long run, Gabriel finished. But proving their point would require a complete working demonstration of their proposed system, something that would normally take months to develop. How long would it take to build a functional prototype? Gabriel asked. Amara thought carefully. Working around the clock with a good team. Maybe a week. But Gabriel, that's assuming everything goes perfectly. One major bug or compatibility issue could push it past the deadline. Gabriel was quiet for a moment, clearly weighing the risks. What do you need? A team of at least 6 programmers, access to Morrison's current system architecture, and complete authority to make design decisions without waiting for approvals. Done. Pick your team and get started. Whatever resources you need, you have them. The next week was the most intense of Amara's professional life. She handpicked a team of the company's best programmers and they worked around the clock to build a demonstration system that would showcase Martinez Technology's superior approach. Gabriel supported them every step of the way, bringing in meals, arranging for temporary beds in unused offices, and handling all the administrative details so the team could focus on coding. On Wednesday night, with the presentation scheduled for Friday morning, they hit a major snag. The system worked perfectly on their test servers, but when they tried to integrate it with Morrison's existing infrastructure, it crashed repeatedly. We're missing something, Amara said, staring at lines of error code at 2 in the morning. There's some compatibility issue we haven't identified. The team had been troubleshooting for 6 hours straight and everyone was exhausted. One by one, her team members went home to get a few hours of sleep, leaving Amara alone with the problem. That's when Gabriel found her, slumped over her laptop in the empty conference room they'd been using as their war room. Hey, he said softly, sitting down beside her. Talk to me. What's wrong? Amara explained the integration problem, her voice thick with exhaustion and frustration. We're so close, Gabriel. The system is better than anything DataSync could offer, but if we can't get it to work with Morrison's existing setup, we'll figure it out, Gabriel said confidently. What if we don't? What if I've let you down? Gabriel took her hands in his. Amara, look at me. You haven't let anyone down. What you and the team have accomplished this week is extraordinary. Even if we don't win the Morrison contract, you've proven that Martinez Technologies has the most talented development team in the industry. But the company, the jobs. The company will survive regardless. We've weathered crises before and we'll weather this one too. What matters is that we give it everything we have. Gabriel's calm confidence gave Amara the strength to take a fresh look at the problem. Sometimes the solution came not from working harder, but from stepping back and seeing the bigger picture. Wait, she said suddenly, pulling up Morrison's system documentation. What if we're approaching this wrong? Instead of trying to integrate our system into theirs, what if we build a bridge application that translates between the two? Gabriel watched as Amara began frantically typing, her energy renewed by the new approach. You think that could work? It's elegant and it would actually be more stable than a direct integration. Plus, it would make future upgrades easier for Morrison. Amara worked through the rest of the night, with Gabriel bringing her coffee and offering encouragement when she hit roadblocks. By 6 in the morning, she had a working prototype of the bridge application. Test it, Gabriel said, and Amara could hear the hope and exhaustion in his voice. The system ran flawlessly. Not only did it solve the integration problems, but it actually performed better than their original design. Gabriel, Amara said, her voice barely above a whisper. I think we did it. Gabriel pulled her into his arms and spun her around the conference room. You did it? You absolutely did it. The presentation to Morrison went better than they could have hoped. When Amara demonstrated the system's capabilities and explained how it would protect Morrison from the vulnerabilities in DataSync's approach, the Morrison executives were visibly impressed. Ms. Johnson, Morrison's CTO said after the presentation, "This is remarkable work. The bridge application alone is worth the contract price." 2 days later, Gabriel called Amara into his office with a huge grin on his face. "Morrison just called," he said. "We not only kept the contract but they're expanding it. They want us to implement this system across all their subsidiaries." Amara felt tears of relief and joy streaming down her face. "We did it. We actually did it." "No, Amara. You did it. This was your vision, your technical expertise, your refusal to give up when things looked impossible." As they celebrated that evening with the entire crisis team, Amara realized that this experience had changed something fundamental in her relationship with Gabriel. They had faced a serious challenge together and emerged stronger. She had seen Gabriel under pressure and watched him support his employees with grace and determination. And Gabriel had trusted her with the future of his company and watched her rise to meet that trust. "I love you," she whispered to him as they slow danced to the music playing at the impromptu celebration. "I love you too," Gabriel replied. "We make a pretty good team." "The best," Amara agreed. But neither of them knew that their happiness was about to be tested in a way that would challenge everything they had built together. 6 months had passed since the Morrison crisis, and life had taken on a beautiful rhythm for Amara and Gabriel. Damon had completed his chemotherapy and was officially in remission, with doctors declaring his treatment a complete success. The non-profit coding school, now called Future Coders, had opened its doors in a renovated community center, with Amara teaching evening classes to enthusiastic children and teenagers. Gabriel had surprised everyone, including himself, by how much he enjoyed working directly with the students. Every Tuesday and Thursday evening he could be found in the classroom, patiently explaining programming concepts to kids who reminded him of his younger self, hungry for knowledge and opportunity. "Mr. Gabriel," 10-year-old Kenji asked during one particularly challenging lesson on loops, "why do you help us? You could be making money instead." Gabriel glanced at Amara, who was helping another student across the room, and smiled. "Because helping people learn new skills is more valuable than making money. And because someone I care about very much taught me that the best things in life come from lifting other people up." Their relationship had deepened in ways that surprised both of them. Gabriel had seamlessly integrated into Amara's family life, becoming the brother Damon had never had and the son Grace had always wanted for her daughter. When Damon returned to college in the fall, Gabriel had quietly established a scholarship fund in his name, ensuring that other young people facing medical crises wouldn't have to choose between their health and their education. But it was the small moments that meant the most to Amara. Gabriel bringing her coffee exactly the way she liked it every morning. The way he listened when she talked about her students' progress. How he never made her feel guilty for the time she spent with her family or the energy she put into the nonprofit. "I have something to tell you," Gabriel said one evening in late November as they walked through the city center, looking at the early holiday decorations. "What's that?" Amara asked, tucking her hand into his arm to stay warm. "I've been thinking about expanding Martinez Technologies internationally." Amara felt a flutter of concern. "That sounds like it would require a lot of travel." Gabriel stopped walking and turned to face her. "It would. That's why I wanted to ask you something important." Before Amara could respond, Gabriel was down on one knee in front of the fountain in the center of the square, pulling a small velvet box from his coat pocket. "Amara Johnson," he said, his voice carrying clearly despite the evening traffic around them. 8 months ago, you asked me to pretend to hug you, and I had no idea that saying yes would change my entire life." Amara felt her heart stop as she realized what was happening. People walking by had started to notice, forming a small crowd around them. "You've taught me what it means to love someone completely and selflessly. You've shown me that success isn't about what you achieve for yourself, but about what you can do for the people you care about." Gabriel opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring that caught the light from the fountain. "I don't want to expand the company internationally unless you're with me. I don't want to do anything unless you're with me. Will you marry me?" Tears were streaming down Amara's face, but she was smiling so widely her cheeks hurt. "Yes," she whispered, then louder, "Yes, of course, yes." The small crowd that had gathered burst into applause as Gabriel slipped the ring onto her finger and stood to kiss her. It was perfect, Amara thought, exactly the kind of proposal she would have dreamed of if she dared to dream so big. "I love you so much," Gabriel murmured against her ear as they held each other in the middle of the square. "I love you too. More than I ever thought it was possible to love someone." As they walked back to Gabriel's apartment, Amara kept looking down at her ring, hardly believing it was real. "When did you buy this?" she asked. Gabriel smiled sheepishly. About 3 months ago. I've been carrying it around, waiting for the perfect moment. This was perfect. Everything about tonight was perfect. They spent the evening calling family and friends to share the news. Grace cried happy tears and immediately started talking about wedding planning. Damon whooped so loudly over the phone that Gabriel had to hold it away from his ear. Elena, Gabriel's sister, insisted on video calling from California so she could see the ring and welcome Amara to the family properly. "I can't wait to meet you in person," Elena said through the computer screen. "Gabriel hasn't stopped talking about you since the day you met." "Really?" Amara asked, glancing at Gabriel with amusement. "Oh yes. He called me after your first dinner together and said, 'Elena, I think I just met the woman I'm going to marry.' I thought he was crazy, but clearly he was just smart." Later that night, as they lay in bed together, Gabriel traced patterns on Amara's shoulder with his finger. "Are you happy?" he asked softly. "I'm more than happy. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. Someone luckier than I ever thought I deserved to be." Gabriel propped himself up on his elbow to look at her. "You deserve all of this and more. You deserve every good thing life has to offer. So do you? You've given me and my family so much, Gabriel. Not just money and opportunities, but hope. You've shown us what it looks like when someone truly cares without expecting anything in return." "You gave me something too," Gabriel said. "You gave me a reason to want something more than just business success. You gave me a family and a purpose that goes beyond making money." They talked late into the night about their future together. Gabriel's international expansion plans, the growing success of future coders, their dream of eventually having children and raising them to understand the importance of helping others. "I want to give our kids the kind of childhood I never had," Gabriel said. "Stable, loving, surrounded by people who support their dreams." "They'll have that," Amara assured him. "We'll make sure of it." The next few weeks were a whirlwind of engagement celebrations and wedding planning. Gabriel insisted on a short engagement, saying he'd waited long enough to make Amara his wife officially. They settled on a spring wedding with the ceremony planned for the garden behind the community center where Future Coders was housed. "It seems fitting," Amara explained to the wedding planner. "That's where we really became partners, working together on something bigger than ourselves." Gabriel agreed completely. "Plus, it means our students can be there. Their family too now." Everything was falling perfectly into place. Amara had never been happier, and she could see the same joy reflected in Gabriel's eyes every time he looked at her. They were building something beautiful together, a life based on love, respect, and shared values. Which is why neither of them was prepared for the phone call that came on a cold Tuesday morning in December, 3 months before their wedding day. Gabriel was in the shower when Amara's phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and felt her blood turn to ice. It was a number she hadn't seen in months but would never forget. Jerome. For a moment she considered not answering. But something told her that ignoring him would only make things worse. "Hello, Jerome," she said, her voice carefully neutral. Well. My little Amara is getting married to her rich boyfriend. Congratulations." The venom in his voice made her skin crawl. "How did you?" "Oh, I've been keeping track of you. Hard to miss when your engagement announcement makes it into the society pages. Gabriel Martinez, CEO of Martinez Technologies. Very impressive. You really traded up." Amara walked to the living room window, looking out at the city while trying to keep her voice calm. "What do you want, Jerome?" "What I've always wanted. This whole thing with the billionaire is just you trying to make me jealous, but it's gone far enough." "I'm not trying to make you jealous. I'm in love with Gabriel and I'm going to marry him." Jerome's laugh was cold and bitter. "No, you're not. Because I'm going to tell him some very interesting things about our relationship. Things that might change his mind about wanting to marry you. I've already told Gabriel about our relationship. He knows everything." "Does he know about the stealing?" Amara felt her heart stop. "What stealing?" "Come on, Amara. Don't play dumb. All those times you took money from my wallet when you thought I was asleep. All those times you used my credit card without permission. Your rich boyfriend might be very interested to know he's marrying a thief." "I never stole anything from you," Amara said, her voice shaking with anger and fear. "That's not how I remember it. And I have documentation. Bank statements, receipts, photos of you going through my things. Very convincing evidence." Amara closed her eyes trying to think. She had never stolen anything from Jerome, but she knew he was capable of manufacturing evidence if it served his purposes. "What do you want?" she asked again. "Meet me tonight. Romano's restaurant where you used to work. 8 o'clock. Come alone, and we'll discuss the terms of keeping your past private." "Jerome, I'm not going to." If you're not there by 8:15, I start making phone calls. First to your fiancé, then to the newspapers. I wonder how the business community would react to knowing that Gabriel Martinez is marrying a woman with a criminal past. The line went dead, leaving Amara staring at her phone in shock and terror. She could hear Gabriel singing in the shower, completely unaware that their perfect life together was being threatened by a man who couldn't accept that she had moved on. For a moment, Amara considered telling Gabriel everything immediately. He would believe her, she was certain of that. But she was also terrified of what Jerome might be capable of if cornered. What if he really had manufactured evidence? What if his lies could somehow damage Gabriel's reputation or business? As much as she hated to admit it, Amara knew she had to meet with Jerome. Not because she believed his threats would work, but because she needed to understand exactly what she was dealing with before she involved Gabriel. She had no idea that Gabriel had heard every word of the conversation through the bathroom door, and that he was already making plans to ensure that Jerome would never threaten the woman he loved again. Amara spent the rest of the day in a state of barely controlled panic. She went through the motions of work, attending meetings and reviewing code, but her mind was entirely focused on the upcoming confrontation with Jerome. Every time Gabriel texted her or stopped by her office, she had to force herself to act normal, terrified that he would sense something was wrong. What she didn't know was that Gabriel had indeed overheard Jerome's phone call that morning. The moment she left for work, he had called his head of security and put in motion a plan to protect Amara from her ex-boyfriend's threats. At 7:30 that evening, Amara told Gabriel she was meeting an old friend from her previous job for dinner. "Anyone I know?" Gabriel asked casually, though Amara could have sworn she saw something sharp in his eyes. "Just someone I used to work with at Romano's. Girl talk, you know." Gabriel nodded and kissed her goodbye. "Drive safely. Text me when you get there so I know you arrived okay." Amara felt terrible lying to Gabriel, but she convinced herself it was temporary. Once she dealt with Jerome and made it clear that his threats wouldn't work, she would tell Gabriel everything. Romano's restaurant looked exactly the same as it had when Amara worked there, dim lighting and red checkered tablecloths giving it the atmosphere of a classic Italian family restaurant. Jerome was already seated at a corner booth when she arrived, looking smugly confident in a way that made her stomach turn. "Right on time," he said as she slid into the seat across from him. "I wasn't sure you'd show. I'm here. Say what you have to say so I can leave." Jerome smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Always so direct. I forgot how much I liked that about you." "Jerome, we're not doing this. You called me here for a reason. What do you want?" "I want you to remember what we had together. I want you to stop this ridiculous charade with your billionaire boyfriend and come back where you belong." Amara stared at him in disbelief. "Are you insane? We had nothing together except you controlling and abusing me. I would never go back to that. You think this guy actually loves you?" Jerome leaned forward, his voice getting nastier. "Men like Gabriel Martinez don't marry girls from the neighborhood, Amara. They have fun with them, then they marry someone from their own social class. Gabriel isn't like that. All men are like that when it comes down to it. But I'm different. I know who you really are and I love you anyway." "You don't love me," Amara said firmly. "You love controlling me. There's a difference." Jerome's expression darkened. "Fine. If you won't listen to reason, then we'll do this the hard way." He pulled out his phone and showed her a series of photos. They appeared to show Amara going through his wallet and taking money, though she had never done any such thing. "These are fake," she said immediately. "Maybe. But they look pretty real, don't they? Especially combined with these bank statements that show unexplained cash deposits into your account during the time we were together." Jerome showed her more documents, all carefully crafted to make it look like she had been stealing from him throughout their relationship. The level of detail was frightening. He had clearly been planning this for months. "Even if people believe these are fake, the damage will be done," Jerome continued. "Your fiancé will always wonder if there's some truth to it. His business associates will gossip. Your reputation will be ruined." "What do you want from me?" Amara asked, though she was afraid she already knew. "Leave him. Tell him you've realized you don't love him and break off the engagement. Then give me another chance to prove that we belong together. And if I don't? Then I release all of this to the media. I've already written a very compelling story about how Gabriel Martinez's fiancée is a con artist who targeted him for his money after practicing on her previous boyfriend." Amara felt sick to her stomach. Even though the allegations were completely false, she knew that mud had a way of sticking. Gabriel's reputation and business could be damaged, and their relationship would be forever tainted by suspicion and doubt. "You're despicable," she whispered. I'm determined. There's a difference. I need time to think about this. Jerome checked his watch. You have until midnight tomorrow. If I don't hear from you by then, I start making phone calls. As Amara stood to leave, Jerome grabbed her wrist. His grip was tight enough to hurt, a reminder of the physical intimidation he had used throughout their relationship. Don't try to run, Amara. I'll find you wherever you go. And don't think about getting your boyfriend's security team involved. Any sign that you've told him about this conversation, and I release everything immediately. Amara pulled her wrist free and walked out of the restaurant on shaking legs. She sat in her car for several minutes trying to figure out what to do. The smart thing would be to go straight to Gabriel and tell him everything. But Jerome's threat about releasing the fake evidence immediately if she involved Gabriel made her hesitate. What if there was a way to handle this without putting Gabriel at risk? As she drove home, Amara's phone rang. Gabriel's name appeared on her car's display screen. Hey, she said, trying to sound normal. How was dinner with your friend? Fine. Just catching up on old times. Good. Listen, I have to work late tonight finishing up some contracts. Don't wait up for me, okay? Okay. I love you. I love you too. See you in the morning. What Amara didn't know was that Gabriel wasn't working late at all. He was coordinating with his security team and a private investigator to gather information about Jerome's activities and plans. Gabriel had heard enough of the morning phone call to know that Jerome was planning to blackmail Amara, and he had no intention of letting that happen. While Amara spent a sleepless night trying to figure out how to protect Gabriel from Jerome's threats, Gabriel was putting together a comprehensive dossier on Jerome's recent activities. What his team discovered was both illuminating and infuriating. Jerome had been unemployed for the past 6 months, living off credit cards and small-time scams. He had been arrested twice for harassment, both cases involving ex-girlfriends who had tried to leave him. He had also been spending significant amounts of money on photo editing software and props, clearly preparing his fake evidence for months. Most importantly, Gabriel's investigator had found evidence that Jerome had been stalking Amara far more extensively than anyone realized. He had photos of her taken outside her apartment, outside Martinez Technologies, and even at the hospital during Damon's treatment. He had clearly been planning this confrontation for a long time. By morning, Gabriel had everything he needed to neutralize Jerome's threats permanently. But first, he had to find a way to get Amara to trust him with the truth about what Jerome was demanding. Gabriel arrived at the office early and asked Amara to join him in his private conference room for what he said was an urgent business matter. Is everything okay? Amara asked, noticing the serious expression on his face. That depends. Amara, I need you to be completely honest with me about something. Amara felt her heart start racing. What is it? Gabriel took her hands in his and looked directly into her eyes. Did Jerome contact you yesterday? Amara's face went white. Gabriel, I heard the phone call yesterday morning, Gabriel said gently. I know he threatened you, and I know you met with him last night instead of having dinner with a friend. Tears started flowing down Amara's cheeks. I'm so sorry I lied to you. I was trying to protect you from getting dragged into my mess. Amara, look at me. You never have to protect me from anything. We're partners, remember? We face problems together. But Jerome has these photos and documents that make it look like I stole money from him during our relationship. They're fake, but they look real. He threatened to release them to the media if I don't break up with you and go back to him. Gabriel nodded calmly. I know about the fake evidence. My security team has been investigating Jerome since yesterday morning. Amara stared at him in shock. You knew? I knew he was planning to blackmail you. What I didn't know was exactly what he was using as leverage. Gabriel pulled out a thick folder. But now I do, and I can tell you with complete certainty that Jerome will never bother you again. Gabriel opened the folder and showed Amara dozens of photos of Jerome following her, bank records showing his financial desperation, and evidence of his previous harassment arrests. This goes to the police this morning, Gabriel said. Jerome has violated his restraining order by contacting you, and the stalking evidence is enough to have him arrested immediately. What if he releases the fake evidence before he's arrested? Gabriel smiled grimly. He can try. But it's hard to be taken seriously when you're calling from jail, and when the media receives a comprehensive package showing that you're a serial stalker with a history of harassment. Amara felt a weight lift off her shoulders that she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. You really think this will work? I don't think it will work. I know it will. Jerome picked the wrong person to threaten, and he definitely picked the wrong person to stalk. Gabriel pulled Amara into his arms. I'm sorry you went through this alone. I should have told you I overheard the phone call. I'm sorry I lied to you about where I was going. I was just so scared that his lies might somehow hurt you or your business. Amara listened to me carefully. There is nothing Jerome could say or do that would make me love you less or trust you less. Nothing. And there is no lie convincing enough to make me believe you would ever steal from anyone. How can you be so sure? Gabriel cupped her face in his hands. Because I know who you are. I know your heart, your character, your integrity. I've watched you sacrifice for your family, work multiple jobs to help the people you love, and build something beautiful with future coders. Jerome's lies can't change any of that. As they held each other in Gabriel's office, Amara realized that this crisis had actually strengthened their relationship rather than threatening it. Gabriel had protected her without hesitation, trusted her completely despite her deception, and shown her once again that his love was unconditional and unwavering. What happens now? She asked. Now Jerome goes to jail where he can't hurt you or anyone else. And we get married in 3 months, exactly as planned. Gabriel was as good as his word. By noon that day, Jerome had been arrested on charges of stalking, harassment, and attempted extortion. The evidence Gabriel's team had gathered was so overwhelming that Jerome's public defender advised him to take a plea deal rather than go to trial. 3 weeks later, Jerome was sentenced to 2 years in prison and a permanent restraining order that would keep him away from Amara for the rest of his life. It's really over, Amara said to Gabriel as they left the courthouse after Jerome's sentencing hearing. It's really over, Gabriel confirmed. You never have to be afraid of him again. As they walked hand in hand back to their car, Amara felt truly free for the first time in years. Jerome's shadow had been hanging over her happiness with Gabriel, and now it was gone forever. Thank you, she said as Gabriel opened the car door for her. For what? For believing in me. For protecting me. For loving me enough to fight for us. Gabriel smiled and kissed her softly. Always, Amara. Always. The morning of Amara's wedding dawned clear and bright, with spring sunshine streaming through the windows of the bridal suite at the downtown hotel where she was getting ready. Grace bustled around the room making final adjustments to Amara's dress, while Damon sat in the corner, handsome in his groomsman's tuxedo and looking healthier than he had in over a year. I still can't believe my little sister is marrying a billionaire, Damon said with a grin. Remember when you used to beat me up for stealing your lunch money? I remember you deserving it, Amara replied, laughing as Grace swatted at both of them. None of that talk on my daughter's wedding day, Grace scolded, but she was smiling through happy tears. You look absolutely beautiful, baby. Amara looked at herself in the full-length mirror and had to agree. Her wedding dress was simple but elegant, with delicate lace details and a flowing skirt that made her feel like a princess. Gabriel had insisted on paying for the dress, just as he had quietly taken care of every wedding expense, but he had made sure Amara had complete control over all the decisions. The flowers are here, Elena announced, bustling into the room with Amara's bouquet. Gabriel's sister had flown in from California 2 weeks early to help with wedding preparations, and she had quickly become like a sister to Amara as well. Gabriel sent these with a note. Amara opened the small envelope with trembling fingers. Inside, in Gabriel's neat handwriting, were just a few words. Thank you for saying yes to that first hug. I love you. Gee. That man is going to make me cry and ruin my makeup, Amara said, wiping at her eyes carefully. Save the tears for the ceremony, Grace advised. Everyone's ready when you are. The wedding was being held in the garden behind the Future Coders Community Center, exactly as Amara and Gabriel had planned. When they had first suggested the location, some people had questioned whether it was grand enough for a man of Gabriel's wealth and status. But Gabriel had insisted that it was perfect. This is where Amara and I truly became partners, he had told the wedding planner. Where we built something meaningful together. I can't think of anywhere more appropriate to promise to spend our lives together. As Amara walked through the community center toward the garden, she could see through the windows that every seat was filled. There were Gabriel's business associates and Elena's family, but there were also Amara's former co-workers from Romano's, neighbors from her old apartment building, and dozens of students from Future Coders with their families. Ready? Damon asked, offering her his arm to walk her down the aisle. More than ready, Amara replied. The garden had been transformed into something magical. White flowers and greenery were everywhere, and string lights had been hung between the trees to create a canopy of soft light. At the front, Gabriel stood waiting in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, his face lighting up with joy when he saw her. As Damon walked her down the petal-strewn aisle, Amara felt like she was floating. Every person they passed was smiling and crying happy tears, but all she could really see was Gabriel's face, full of love and promise and hope for their future together. "Who gives this woman to be married to this man?" the minister asked when they reached the altar. "Her family does," Damon replied, kissing Amara's cheek before placing her hand in Gabriel's. "Take care of my sister," he whispered to Gabriel. "Always," Gabriel whispered back. The ceremony itself passed in a blur of joy and emotion. Gabriel's vows brought tears to everyone's eyes as he spoke about how Amara had taught him what it meant to love unconditionally and how she had shown him that success meant nothing without someone to share it with. Amara's vows were simpler but no less heartfelt. "You saved me," she said, looking directly into Gabriel's eyes, "not from Jerome, not from financial struggles, not from any external problem. You saved me from believing I didn't deserve to be loved completely and without conditions. You showed me what love is supposed to look like." When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Gabriel kissed Amara with such tenderness and joy that the entire crowd erupted in applause and cheers. The reception was held under a large tent in the community center's parking lot, with dinner catered by Romano's restaurant at Amara's request. As the evening progressed, the celebration felt less like a formal wedding reception and more like a community festival, with children running between tables, elderly neighbors dancing with business executives, and everyone united in their joy for the couple. "Thank you for this," Gabriel said to Amara as they swayed together during their first dance. "For insisting on having the wedding here, for including everyone who matters to both of us. It's perfect." "We're perfect," Amara replied, resting her head on his shoulder. "I never thought I'd be brave enough to believe in happily ever after, but here we are." After the formal dances, the party became more relaxed. Gabriel's business partners mingled with Amara's family and friends, discovering they had more in common than they'd expected. The future coders students delighted in teaching programming concepts to anyone who would listen, and Grace charmed everyone with stories about her children's accomplishments. "Speech! Speech!" someone called out as the evening wound down, and soon the entire crowd was chanting for Gabriel and Amara to say a few words. Gabriel stood up and raised his glass, and the tent immediately fell quiet. "A year ago," he began, "I thought I had everything I needed. A successful business, financial security, a comfortable life. I was wrong. I had everything except the most important thing, someone to share it with." He looked down at Amara with such love that several people in the crowd sighed audibly. "Amara taught me that real wealth isn't measured in dollars or business success. It's measured in the people who love you, the lives you touch, and the legacy you leave behind. She taught me that the best investment you can make is in other people's dreams and happiness." Gabriel raised his glass higher. "So tonight I want to make a promise to all of you, not just to my beautiful wife. Martinez Technologies is establishing the Amara Johnson Martinez Foundation, dedicated to providing educational opportunities and support for families facing medical crises. Because Amara has shown me that when you lift others up, everyone rises together." The crowd erupted in applause, but Gabriel wasn't finished. "And to my wife," he said, turning to face Amara directly, "thank you for asking me to pretend to hug you that night in the rain. Thank you for trusting me with your heart, your family, and your dreams. Thank you for showing me what it means to love someone completely." Amara stood up to respond, feeling overwhelmed by emotion and gratitude. "I don't have fancy words or big announcements," she said, her voice carrying clearly in the quiet tent. "I just have a heart full of love and gratitude. Gabriel, you didn't just save me from a bad situation. You showed me what it looks like when someone truly sees you and loves what they see." She looked around at all the faces surrounding them, people from every part of their lives united in celebration. "But more than that, you showed me that love isn't just about two people. It's about building something together that makes the world a little bit better. Future coders, the foundation you just announced, the way you've embraced my family as your own. That's what love looks like when it's real and lasting." As the evening ended and guests began to say their goodbyes, Amara and Gabriel stood together greeting everyone and thanking them for being part of their special day. "Where are you two going for your honeymoon?" Elena asked as she prepared to leave. "Paris," Gabriel replied. "Amara has always wanted to see the Louvre, and I have some business meetings there that we can combine with sightseeing." "Actually," Amara said, surprising Gabriel, "I was thinking we might want to change those plans." Gabriel looked at her curiously. "Where would you rather go?" Amara smiled mischievously. "I was thinking we could spend our honeymoon visiting schools and rural communities, researching places where we might want to expand future coders." Gabriel stared at her for a moment, then threw back his head and laughed with pure delight. "You want to spend our honeymoon doing site visits for the nonprofit? Too nerdy?" Gabriel kissed her thoroughly. "Perfect. Absolutely perfect. We can see the Louvre another time. As their guests departed and the cleanup crew began taking down decorations, Amara and Gabriel walked hand in hand through the community center that had become so important to their relationship. Do you think we'll be happy? Amara asked as they stood in the classroom where they taught coding together twice a week. Gabriel stopped walking and turned to face her, taking both her hands in his. Amara, I think we're going to be more than happy. I think we're going to build something extraordinary together. A marriage, a family, a legacy of helping other people achieve their dreams. Even when things get difficult? Especially when things get difficult. We've already proven we can handle challenges together. Jerome, Damon's illness, the Morrison crisis. We're stronger as a team than either of us is individually. Gabriel pulled her close and rested his forehead against hers. Besides, I have it on good authority that kindness, hope, and love always win in the end. Who told you that? Amara asked with a smile. A very wise woman who asked me to pretend to hug her one rainy night. Best decision I ever made. As they turned off the lights and locked the community center, Amara reflected on the incredible journey that had brought them to this moment. A year ago she had been afraid, struggling, and convinced that she didn't deserve genuine love. Now she was married to the most wonderful man she'd ever met, surrounded by family and friends who supported their dreams, and embarking on a future filled with infinite possibility. Ready to start our new life together, Mrs. Martinez? Gabriel asked as they walked to their car. More than ready, Mr. Martinez, Amara replied. Let's go change the world. And as they drove away from their wedding reception into the warm spring night, both Gabriel and Amara knew that their greatest adventures were still ahead of them. They had found not just love, but partnership, purpose, and the kind of happiness that comes from building something meaningful together. Their story had begun with a desperate plea for help from a stranger, but it had become something much more beautiful, a testament to the power of kindness, the importance of hope, and the transformative nature of unconditional love. In the months and years that followed, the Amara Johnson Martinez Foundation would help thousands of families facing medical and educational challenges. Future coders would expand to 12 cities, providing technology education to underserved communities across the country. Gabriel and Amara would have 3 children who grew up understanding the importance of using their privileges to help others. But all of that success and impact could be traced back to one rainy night when a scared young woman found the courage to ask a stranger for help, and that stranger chose to say yes without hesitation. Sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin with the simplest acts of human kindness. And sometimes, when you're brave enough to trust a stranger with your heart, you discover that they've been waiting their whole life to prove worthy of that trust. Have you ever experienced a moment where someone's unexpected kindness changed your entire life? How do you think Amara and Gabriel's story will inspire others to open their hearts to love again? Share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe for more heartwarming love stories that prove fairy tales can come true.